Hey guys, and welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report presented by Great Days Outdoors Magazine, the first podcast to bring you the local inshore, offshore, and onshore fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. I'm Butch Theory. I'm joined today with co-host Captain Richard Rutland with Cold Blooded Fishing. How we doing today, Captain Blood?
Man, just glad to be here. Definitely like some fishing weather today. A little overcast, a little breezy.
Little breezy for sure.
Yeah, that's what I call some good fishing weather. But
No doubt.
I stayed off the water today, but I'll be hard at it the rest of the week. So I'm looking forward to it.
How about you, Joe Baya? It's good to have you back on the show, sir. Host of the Northwest Florida Fishing Report. How are you today?
I'm doing great, man. You know, you talk about the weather. It's been a wild week. I'm lucky in that every morning when I drop my son off, or every morning that I drop my son off at preschool, I make a quick loop around and take a drive down the Gulf of Mexico. I get to take a look at the conditions out there. And Monday would have made any surfer just super happy. It was big rollers coming in. Tuesday, slick, flat, calm. I mean, just beautiful.
Nice.
Today, Wednesday, here we are Wednesday with the recording, just rough again, but in a completely different way, in a completely different direction. It wasn't big rollers on the beach, you know, but you could just see it out there. You have got to pick a window. If you're planning on going offshore right now, you know, picking a window is super, super important. But there's some fish out there to be caught.
Yeah, definitely. I've been seeing a lot of yellowfin come in, and Captain Kendall over on the Gulf Rebel over there in Orange Beach, he's been doing really well too. I didn't talk to him this week just because we're going to have Mr. Thomas Hilton on to give us a little offshore snapshot. I know it's been pretty rough, but
Yep, I snuck offshore last Friday.
That's right.
And we had a good trip. We were trying to target swordfish and wahoo. Came up with no bites on either of those species and absolutely smashed the grouper on the way home.
It's not a bad concession prize.
I think we had like 6 pretty decent sized scamp. Corey Quint got on the jig rod, man,
Nice.
on the diamond jig, was wrecking this diamond jig. And we'd caught a blackfin while we were sword fishing and chunked him up, and that was the beta choice for the yellow edge groupers. We're all over that. We probably caught, I think we caught another 6 or 7 yellow edge groupers, real nice size on them, and then pile of beeliners, obviously, too. You know, but we had a great trip.
Yeah, I hate I couldn't go. I appreciated the invite, though, you know.
Yeah, my phone must have been off.
It wasn't my boat, fellas, okay? It wasn't my boat.
Whatever. Always an excuse.
Man, y'all are funny.
Man, you talk about a window, though. It's good fishing. I mean, everybody thinks that the fish go away during the wintertime, and we proved that wrong last winter. Some of the best bill fishing of the year happened right there in December. And but finding that window, you know, you know, like I was saying earlier, you may have a period there of time that you're going to be able to get after them, but you ain't going to have a lot of time in most days
Right.
of good weather. And picking your spot and then being able to find the fish quickly, knowing where they are before you go, that's the key to this time of year. And that's really what we're going to cover today in the offshore report. Really just get kind of a conditions report. Where is that blue water? Where are those, you know, where is that good and bad altimetry? Let's go talk with Tom and see what's going on with Papa Tom over there at Hilton's Real-Time Navigator.
What's going on, Mr. Tom? What you see out there in the Gulf of Mexico, buddy?
Well, hey, how are you guys doing?
We are doing well, trying to stay unwind burned. It's a little windy over here today. How about over there?
Man, it's the sun is shining and not a cloud in the sky. The birds are singing.
Oh, gosh.
Not much wind either over here in Texas. It's a pretty good looking day.
Heck yeah. Very cloudy and windy here, but it's supposed to clear up Friday and Saturday, so hopefully we'll be able to get out there and take care of some fishing.
Yep.
What's going on?
Well,
offshore?
I mean, the water temperatures they're getting cooler out there, of course, and so this time of year it becomes pretty imperative to be looking for your warmer water. During the summer, you're looking for cooler water. Right now, we're looking for warmer water. And there's blue water almost all the way to the beach there, Alabama and the Florida Panhandle, very close in. The altimetry is good. There was all during the summer, there was that warm core eddy that was parked out there off the spars out there off of Mississippi and that area. All that's kind of dissipated out, and you got this massive upwelling, nutrient-rich cyclone that's just sitting out there. I'm wishing it'd come a little bit closer in, but it's just, it's just looking a lot better altimetry-wise. So if you're open water fishing, you need to be taking paying attention to your altimetry. So your watercolor is good. They're still catching billfish out at the Fads. I guess Miles Colley was fishing from the board and the run. He was out on the center console last week and caught a white and I think a blue, and they're catching tuna. So they're still there to be caught.
Awesome.
And
Mr. Tom,
over here off Texas.
Sorry to interrupt you. Whenever you say nutrient-rich cyclone, what exactly are you seeing?
The altimetry imagery is using radar. It's one of the few imageries that's really not affected by cloud covers. The same technology that your state trooper uses with his radar gun. He's measuring your distance and calculating your speed.
Mm-hmm.
So the satellites shoot these radar beams down through the clouds and bounce them off the surface of the ocean. They put the wave heights to an algorithm, and it creates this mean surface height contour chart of the ocean every day. And so you have mean sea level, which is 0, and then you have bulges, which are downwelling nutrient poor areas, and then you have depressions, which are upwelling nutrient rich zones. So these upwelling, downwelling areas are constantly shifting and growing or dissipating in intensity. And so it's really important to understand if you're in a zone that is conducive to feeding, or, these downwelling areas, these downwelling currents push everything down, including the nutrients. So that's the beginning of the food chain. And so if there's no food, these pelagics will avoid those areas that are devoid of nutrients and food. The nutrient-rich upwellings is where the current, for every action, there's a reaction. So these are interrelated. Like the loop current and these warm core eddies that spin off of it, those are all downwelling currents. So you're pushing these currents down. So for every action, there's a reaction. So the byproduct of the loop current and these warm core eddies are these upwelling, that current is coming back up around these downwelling zones, and it's bringing the nutrients from the bottom up toward the surface, and it interacts with sunlight, and that's the beginning of the food chain. And so it's somebody somewhere somehow figured out, hey, we're catching fish over here in these depressions, and we're not catching them over here in these bulges. Of course, with the caveat that if you're open water rip fishing, you better be paying attention to that. If you're fishing a structure such as a spar or a drill ship or a semi-submersible, you can pretty much throw the altimetry out the window, because the big assumption is that the bait is free-flowing with the open ocean currents. And with the introduction of these deep water structures, the bait's no longer leaving the refuge of that structure. And if the bait's not leaving, then the predators aren't leaving either.
So, Tom, I want to back you up to a couple of things. We're going to get back to this upwelling, downwelling thing. I'm going to get this thing right before we're done recording podcast. But before we go back to that, how much of a temperature change is significant? I mean, if we're looking at a sea surface temperature chart, are we looking for a degree change, a half a degree change? What is something where you're going to go, boom, right there?
There's nothing hard and fast in this business. And I've seen a half a degree break produce, just fine. There's other factors that come into play. The amount of flotsam or sargassum that does collect along that break. That's a big factor. Your water clarity on one or both sides is another huge factor. I mean, yeah, if you can get a 2-degree break, it's a very well-defined edge as well. Some breaks are not so well-defined. They'll stretch out over miles, and you go a couple of miles, and it'll, gradually change. So there's no real organization to it. And what you want to look for is, some really good, crisp, defined edges that have a good organized line to it.
Well, that makes sense, because if you think about you think about rip fishing, we've all been on a rip at some point, and you'll notice, man, it looks really good right here. The sargassum's all stacked up, the color change is significant, and then you work your way down that that rip or that weed line or whatever it may be, and
Falls
it kind of
apart.
just kind of falls apart, breaks up, may come back together again on down the line. So that makes sense. So you're just saying focus on where you've got a crisp edge.
Yes, and they'll also come apart and then come back up together during the course of a day. Like in the morning, it may be pushed up real good, and then that afternoon it'll disperse out, or vice versa. Years ago, I was fishing the Emerald Coast tournament. There was just mass chaos out there with sargassum. It was everywhere. It was just wasn't any organization, and it made fishing really, really tough. I don't know if y'all remember that. It was about 4 or 5 years ago.
I can remember. I don't remember the 4 or 5 year one necessarily because I wasn't offshore fishing the whole time, but I can remember summers where you couldn't troll.
Yeah.
I mean, just couldn't.
Yeah. You're
Unreal.
constantly clearing the lines, you know.
Yep.
And so my philosophy was, let's go look at sea temps. And Hilton's has this feature where you can filter the sea surface temperatures and block out any data that you're not interested in. And so you're able to focus it, and it'll pop out these subtle edges, like you're talking, Joe, like a half a degree break where you wouldn't normally see it with the default range that's on there. The broader your range, the more diffuse and less usable your data becomes. So the more you're able to squeeze that range, the more focused and defined it becomes. So I went in and just kind of, squeezed that range down and popped out, just optimized it on what I was seeing out there. And so my train of thought was this: if you can find any well-defined crisp edges in that mass chaos out there, there's a reason that line is there. And so we found one, and we said, let's go. So we went there, and sure enough, it was a textbook perfect edge. On the backside, on the other side of it, it was all mass chaos. But there was about a 200-yard wide trolling corridor along this edge. And then on the other side of that 200 yards, it was all mass chaos again. And so we caught a couple of blues and a couple of sailfish off of that line.
Man, you're getting me excited. That rip fishing is just, doesn't get any better.
I know, I love it, man.
I can just see it right now.
There. Yeah, just being out there by yourself. I hate fishing in a crowd. I like to be out, out in the open ocean on a good weed line. That doesn't get much better than that.
Yep, definitely.
I want to come back to the upwellings and the downwellings here for a minute, because here's what I do now. Whatever I think it's the opposite of that.
Agreed.
So you're not the first one to say that,
actually. Depressions are upwellings.
Yeah.
Correct.
Bulges are downwellings. Depressions,
correct.
Good. Normally depression would be bad. Depression, good.
Right.
All right. So I got this baby now. I got it now.
Joe, I think this will be the first time I picked up something before you did.
Yeah.
Well, slow
but of course, this is about the 4th time I've been on here with Tom too. So I've been.
It is for me
well
too.
Educated.
And I'm finally getting it. Now we go back to this warm core eddy discussion. Tom, can we think about that? I like your analogy of for every action there's an opposite reaction. So can we think about that like an eddy in a river? You got this current flowing down the river, and you've got a bend, and there's some slack water behind it. Is that a fair way to look at these warm core eddies?
Yeah, I suppose that could be. I think maybe another way to look at it would be similar to a weather system, so that your high systems are clockwise rotating and your lows, so you're counterclockwise rotating. I like fishing in a low more so than a high. I'd rather be in front, prefrontal conditions, as your barometer is dropping and the front is barreling down, coming in at some point in time in the future. But that's when it spurs the bite, has been my observation anyway. I like to be out there before front, and I hate being out there right after a front. So when the high moves in, it kind of shuts the fishing down for a day or two until it recovers. So you want to be in a low. That's the same thing with altimetry. Is your lows or your depressions, your counterclockwise rotating lows and your clockwise rotating highs. And then that being said, because they are interrelated, one action creates the other reverse action. A lot of times you'll see this, strong clockwise current, and then next to it is this strong counterclockwise current. Well, the current in between those two is really neither clockwise or counterclockwise. It's just good, strong current. The fish don't know where they're at on the altimetry chart in that way. In those situations, you're just really looking for good current. And so you can be up into the positives up in the altimetry. As long as you're on the perimeter, you're all right. But you certainly do not want to be in the middle of this warm core eddy. You can be in some beautiful cobalt blue water and trolling a beautiful made-up weed line, but you'll be fishing the Dead Sea by most standards. And like I said, there's nothing hard and fast in this business. I will never tell you that you will not catch a fish in that scenario. I say your odds of catching a fish in that scenario are greatly diminished.
All right, Tom. So we the other analogy that stuck with me from past shows is the idea of building a poker hand for offshore fishing. You've talked about those upwellings. Those are going to be good areas, but an upwelling that is in a near a temperature break is going to be a better area. And the more of these factors that you pay attention to and can get in your favor, the better your hand gets, the better your chances get. What else is there this time of year? Is chlorophyll a factor in the wintertime?
Yes. Again, there's nothing hard and fast because, you're going to catch some huge tuna in green water this time of year. Well, shoot, even during the summer, I've seen some huge tuna caught in green water.
Oh, yeah.
But like you're saying, it's really looking for where you have the most overlapping favorable conditions, good altimetry. If you have a nice edge, nice temp break, which is a potential probable weed line, if there's any sargassum and the technology's here to detect sargassum. It's just not, the resolution's not, and the timeliness of it makes it pretty much unusable. So if somebody tells you, hey, I can guarantee you there's a weed line here, they're pulling your leg because the technology's not there. It's just that we can show you where the temp breaks are, where the weed lines will be if there's flotsam and sargassum on them. But we can't tell you if it has that. So you have let's say a good altimetry, you have a nice temp break that's, say, bisecting the shelf. That's a really good feature. So there's some fish that are following the surface structure, and there's some fish that are following the bottom structure, the shelf. And so these intersection points are of interest because you'll have a bell curve of fish there just based on that. And if there's a bell curve, if there's a higher number of fish in that area, you're going to have a higher percentage of success on that.
Man,
so let's say you got good altimetry, good temp break, you're crossing over the shelf, you got some good current. Let's say that's 4 aces in your hand, and you get that many good, really good, solid conditions in one spot. You're gonna have a hard time getting me off that spot. I'll be working it pretty good.
That is so cool. And then of course you've got the help feature, which if you're in fish, you're able to mark those fish and then go back and essentially reverse engineer why they were there, right?
Yeah, help is Hilton's electronic logbook program. And so you can go back and reverse engineer your trip and place your fish catch locations, put an icon on there, and that location will store your conditions on that day. So your temperature, your chlorophyll concentration, your current speed and direction, your altimetry elevation. And I'm going to include another feature where it'll detect if there is a surface structure within 1 mile, such as a spar or a drill ship. That's a big factor, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you just have a fish catch location icon, but you don't relate it to the specific structure you're fishing, it doesn't tell the whole story. And so that is something that is a log that stays in your account, and it's private. Nobody has access. I have no access to it. So you can develop a really, really good log on why did you catch that fish on that spot on that particular day. And you'll over a period of time, you'll see the trends on what the conditions were that are making those fish be there on that particular day. And so what I'm trying to do is to take that to the next level, and so that you can forecast out based on what we're seeing today. What do we see for tomorrow? Where do you think, where would the system put you to be in your best chances of success? I'm not there yet, so I'm not saying that I've got it ready for launch, but that's what we're working on.
A fish cast, so to speak. Whenever you trademark that, royalties. I take royalties. That's no problem.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, that sounds like a great wintertime report, man. It sounds like there's some good conditions out there for folks if they're looking for that weather window when they get it, to be able to point them in the right direction. If they want to get on Hilton's Realtime Navigator and start to take a look at this stuff for themselves and pick up a subscription, what's the best way for them to do it?
Yeah, just go to hiltonsoffshore.com. There's a contact page. It has my cell phone and my email on it. So if you call me, I'll answer. And I'll answer any questions you have. If you want to do a game plan for tomorrow or whatever, I'll do this every single day. And it's part of how I get my job satisfaction too. I've really met a whole bunch of really great people over the years doing this.
And it's almost Christmas time. That'd be a really great gift for husband or dad, for real.
Ooh, man.
Yeah, sure would.
I'll talk to Katie for you.
Yeah.
Slide in there for you.
I had a couple quick things. Speaking of water temperatures, over here off Texas, off the southern part of Texas near Mexico, we're probably about 3 degrees warmer than the upper Gulf up where you guys are. And one of our Texas captains went out last week, and he went 8 for 12 on blues here on the Dragon Up, the Kevin Dearman.
They're coming for you, Tom.
So
run, Tom, run.
They're on to me. I gotta go.
Oh, that's an incredible trip, man. 8 for 12. That's no joke.
Yeah. Golly.
That's a hate crime against the billfish.
There's a couple of guys, the Cox, JD and Jeremy Cox brothers. They launched this new tournament format this year. Was called the Mongo Offshore Challenge, and so I think the minimum length on, let's say, a marlin was like 118 inches or whatever, and I think it's 125 pounds for tuna and swordfish, or 175 pounds. 40 pounds on the Dorado. Anyway, they had a great first year. The guys I can't say enough about them, what they've done on their tournament. But one of the, Hilton's was the presenting sponsor for the Mongo this year. And one of the perks that we offered was that, hey, any boat that's entered in the Mongo and that also has a Hilton subscriber on board, if they catch a state record while they're fishing the Mongo, I'm going to give them a lifetime subscription, and I'll be dang if Captain Scooter Porto on the Fleur de Lis there, I think that's out of Orange Beach.
They got you.
They won. They brought in the new Alabama state record, and so I'm going to be giving them the lifetime, my first ever giveaway of a Hilton's lifetime subscription.
That's awesome. Quite the accomplishment.
Yeah.
That's worth it. That's a worthy
just wanted
accomplishment.
to give those guys. So anybody that's looking, the Mongo is like 6-month-long tournament. It starts in the spring and ends up in October. I think they had 64 boats in it this year. For their first year, I thought that was an incredible thing. So I think next year is going to be even better. I just want to give those guys a shout out because they really took this by the horns and just, they just killed it.
Yeah, that's a cool new format. And
yes, it is.
Thanks for being a sponsor for it, and thanks for being a sponsor for this show, Tom. You're one of the reasons we're able to, bring this to everybody for free each week, and share some of your knowledge and share a lot of knowledge from a lot of really great captains around the Gulf of Mexico. So we definitely appreciate you, and we just hope you have a Merry Christmas, man, and a prosperous New Year. We're looking forward to talking some more offshore fishing in 2021.
Well, I appreciate you guys. Y'all have a really unique format on everything you're doing, and I appreciate it all. And I wish y'all all the best on your holidays, and Merry Christmas to everyone.
Appreciate that.
All right, that was good.
The smart dude right there, Joe. I think he's even smarter than you. I know you probably don't want to admit that, but
hey, remember,
I don't know what you do with that big old head of yours.
Yeah, that big old forehead. Look at that.
You think you'd be smarter than everybody with that sucker?
It's a 5 head. Hey, listen, depression equals good.
Yeah.
On this show, if you're depressed, it's a good thing.
I wouldn't go that far. I think you went a little too far on that. But
no, I'm just trying to get myself a way to remember this.
I'll tell you what I really liked was the counterclockwise and the clockwise, and then the middle was the good current. You see me working it out of my hands and my head?
I did. And like in the middle, though, you got to split the difference.
You got the
That's the channel. That's the channel right in the middle.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I got it. I'm ready.
I like it. And that makes a ton of sense, too, while that would be a good area, because you got to figure it's like a lot of turbulence right there.
Yep.
It's going to keep things stirred up. Everything's not going to be swimming the same direction. It's going to be a lot easier for predator fish to pick off bait. I'm with you, Joe. A lot of those terms that he used initially, until I slowed him down a couple times initially and had him explain what an upwelling and a downwelling,
nutrient-rich cyclone.
He's using these big words, and it really, really starts to make a lot of sense.
Yep.
And dude really knows what he's talking about.
Yep.
Heck yeah, man.
And obviously he has the anglers behind him to prove it. Like we were kind of talking about offline, some of those other captains that have these humongous log books and are logging not only their catches but other boats' catches and where they were and whatnot, and starting to really put a pattern together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, is to be able to put a pattern together, and that's when
catch log sounds awesome.
Yep, that's really going to help too, because they're not having to print out what the dude said he pulled out several binders of all these Hilton's printouts, and now you're going to be able to just use it on his, and he's made it secure where nobody can even look at it except for you.
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
That's got to be a good feeling too, because we all know how fishermen are about their information,
Oh, yeah.
We obviously like to share information on this show, but not everybody is quite.
Especially when you're fishing for millions of dollars.
Oh, I know, right? Golly.
Well, we get turned down quite frequently for contributions, so it's not everybody's so open and sharing like you are, Captain Blood.
That's right.
Well, you are who you are.
That's right. You got to do what you got to do.
Speaking of that, we got to talk a little bit about flounder sometime here pretty soon. I need to hear. I know you're ready to give me all the spots and everything. And
I caught a flounder at Dolphin Island fishing in the Battle of the Grubs. I thought I had a friggin' good trout, man, and flounder. Only time I've ever been upset I catch a flounder, like Bobby
had a stud.
I know Bobby's sitting there with the net. We were needing a fish bad, real bad. Here comes up a flounder on a cool bean slick lure, and I'm like, oh, boo.
Well, I know Bobby didn't catch it.
No.
So,
oh man, poor guy. He's not even here to defend himself.
Well, boys, I gotta get out of here and go wrap up this Northwest Florida show. And but the offshore report's the offshore report. Whether you're leaving out of Destin, Panama City, Orange Beach, Dolphin Island, we're all heading towards the same waters, and it sounds like there's good action just about anywhere you want to go, whatever port you're leaving from. So
I like it.
I like doing the offshore report with you guys, but we do things a little bit different over here. I'm going to go get my inshore and my onshore, get out of y'all's hair. And same to you guys. You guys have a Merry Christmas. And I guess, it'll probably be maybe the new year before we
Hey,
talk.
I'll see you next year, bro. You know what I mean?
Yep.
All right, man. Y'all have a good one. Talk
Get
to
on
you
out
all
of here.
next go round.
All right,
right.
Dodger.
All right, boy.
Always good to hear from Mr. Tom, man. That dude's a wealth of knowledge.
For sure.
Always. This week's Offshore Snapshot was brought to us by CCA Alabama. I think Blakely did pretty good with that online auction last week or this weekend, I guess.
Man, there's a lot of great stuff.
There was a lot of good stuff in there.
Oh, yeah.
I got multiple of those Dr. Ship books, Fishes of the Gulf, for gifts. I'm going to give them like to my niece and pretty cool stuff.
Cool fact about that. I'm in the book. If you look up Remora, you can see my hands. You'll see my wedding ring and my watch or whatever's on there. If you look up Remora, I made the book.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, you guys support that CCA Alabama. The best way to support ways like the Speckled Trout Hatchery in the University of South Alabama Cobia Tagging Project is the purchase of a distinctive CCA Alabama saltwater fishing license plate. You guys head over to Alabama Department of Revenue's distinctive license plate page at revenue.alabama.gov to get yours. All right, man, let's head on down. Well, I say down, up, over. You never know where he's going to be.
He's over.
Over most of the time.
Across the pond.
Across the pond.
Yeah.
Across the ponder.
Yeah, even though he comes over here to the west side to Potlick.
What's that? Let's go see what Captain Patric Garmeson's doing with Ugly Fishing. How we doing today, Captain Patrick?
I'm just going to have to change my name from Ugly Fishing to Pot Licking Charters. Go ahead and get the shirt.
LLC.
Oh, yeah, you got referred to as Positive Pat. Positive Pat earlier today, too. So, I mean, you got a pile of nicknames, man. That's how you know people like you. You got a bunch of nicknames, man.
That's good. I feel better, especially after I got – I'm gonna go ahead and share y'all my humility moment today. Went ahead and was pulling the boat up, or I got the boat up to the ramp or to the dock, and the west wind had me pressed up against the dock, and I jump on the boat, and I was like, well, I'm gonna push the boat off so I can get the bow away from the dock, and I freaking fell my butt right off in the water.
Oh my gosh. No, you didn't. That makes for a long morning.
No. This was afternoon. This was putting the boat on the trailer.
Good.
So anyway, I had to pour the water out of my extra tough boots and turned the heater on high, turned it on my floor, and I was dang near dry before I got home. But very, very humbling moment after a successful day of fishing. Dropped my butt right off in the water off the dock. So
that's all right.
You know,
sometimes you gotta
200 something days a year launching and putting a boat on the trailer. Even this jackass can fall off.
Well, that's kind of like one of those things too. Like it happens to me like once or every year, every other year. Put the boat in the water without the plug or something.
Oh, it's going to happen as many days as you guys do it.
Even as much as you do it, man, you still do silly stuff. Captain Bobby was telling me the other day he went fishing in like 30-something degree weather and forgot his boots and had to go fishing in his flip-flops. It's going to happen to you, and if it doesn't, you're not going enough,
Right.
I mean, it's just
that's all right. Well, thanks for sharing that because I definitely enjoyed it.
I had to go ahead and get that one off my chest there because
for sure I appreciate that.
It was weighing heavily on me, and I need and the guys I took today are all podcast listeners, so they'll appreciate that I fell in the water after the trip.
Nice.
And, had Brian and George and Kyle on the boat. Anyway, we had a good trip, but. Anyway, good. I guess let's step back a little bit into the weekend. That'll kind of round us out. I'll start with the weekend with the bog tournament and even before the trout fishing has been my primary focus. And I tell you what, there's often a question asked like to anglers, like what would be your life lure if you had one lure to throw for the rest of your life? What would it be? And I don't know if this is like a 365-day-a-year lure right now, but the daggum cool bean slick lure is holding its own pretty strong, man.
I would strongly agree.
Mm-hmm.
All up and down the eastern shore. I mean, from the Causeway to like Mullet Point, we're catching fish, speckled trout and redfish on cool bean slick lure. All up and down the western side of the bay, we're catching speckled trout and redfish on the cool bean slick lure. So
I caught a flounder. I caught a flounder on a Cool Bean Slick on Saturday, on the big slick, not even the little one.
I caught a flounder on the B-Cat last weekend.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, with Bobby, with the B-Cat,
with the B-Cat. That's right.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, I strongly agree with Patrick. They are destroying that lure right now.
Hey, that picture that you posted earlier says it all, dude. Matching the hatch.
Dude, that redfish choked that mullet up. And you can't really see it in the picture. The purplish blue color in that mullet was the exact same color as that slick lure. I mean, it's unbelievable how closely matched Joey got that color with the color of that mullet, man. It was unbelievable.
I look at like the more solid colors what I'll call the more solid colors, not the ones that break up with the chartreuse tail or whatever. Those colors to me are more clear water lures, and we just have a lot of clean water around right now. Like the water's absolutely beautiful from Dolphin Island up to Gilliard area. Patrick, is that what you say?
Man, hey, today we were finding some really pretty water further up onto the causeway than I was expecting. I mean, like 24 to 36 inch of visibility this morning.
Oh wow! So the water quality is really good right now, and I think that's why that lure is really shining.
Agreed.
Is because we have just a bunch of nice clean water. So.
Yep, I like that one. I like the greeny, like the solid color you were talking about. They've been in the dirty ice, man. It worked really well for us.
You as well. Dirty ice too.
I do, man.
Nice.
I am.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm very partial to the Bayou Blues. I really like that Bayou Blues. It's been a very good year-round color too. I catch a lot of fish in the summertime on that bait. So can't say enough about the slick lure.
For sure.
Well, speaking of the slick lure, I humbly came in second place in the bog. Me and Doug Tears fished together, and we caught all of our stringer fish on the Cool Bean slick lure. Behind our friends Richard and Bobby took the top spot from us.
Nice.
And had the big fish, man. That was a beautiful fish.
Who caught that, Richard? Giant. Bobcat did.
How big?
Nice.
6.2. Yeah,
good one.
Really, really big. I was thinking that fish was going to weigh more than that. Bobby did say that whenever he was draining the live well, that there was a fish in there like that he had thrown
puked it up.
That obviously it was that fish that puked it up too, because it was like some giant mullet or croaker or something.
Yeah,
something humongous. A really big bait. I was expecting that fish to go closer to 7 because it's just a big fish, just a giant. But anywho, that's neither here nor there. We were very lucky to win because we had that giant, and then it went downhill quick from there on our stringer. We usually like to kind of pride ourselves on weighing in like a good average size fish when we weigh up. I tell you, it seemed like a lot of people struggled on bog day. I was really expecting the fish to really chew because we had overcast conditions. It was windy. We had a front moving in that day, so the pressure was dropping. Very good rising tide all morning. And Patrick Patrick and I compared notes afterwards, and it sounded like they caught a bunch of fish that day, and a couple other teams did, but then a bunch of teams like just struggled all day to get bites.
Yeah.
It was kind of an early thing for us, and then shut down the rest of the day in the area we went to. But it was I don't know, that was kind of a little bit puzzling to me why it came out that way. But
well, congratulations to you both.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Doug and I started out fishing a lot of deeper water. We worked our tails off to try to find a couple of bites, and the water temp I kept seeing around 63, 64 degrees. And man, we pulled out of the deeper water. We went out in the bay, and we found some areas where we could work and fish shallower water, say like 4 to 8 feet of water, and that's where we did all of our damage, was in shallower water. And it sounded like the guys that stayed like focused in the deeper water areas where they had been catching fish days before. I mean, heck, even a day before, I know some guys that were doing well in deeper water, and their bites just totally shut down. I really just reacted to the fact that water temperature was on the rise, and we just kept going, trying to find shallower and shallower water. And that ended up being kind of our success story. But I mean, I think Al, well, actually, Al Mead, he was fishing some of the deep water. He came in third place, and one of his stringer fish came on top water, middle of the day. And he said that he had his biggest trout of the morning hooked, said that it may have been upwards of 6 pounds that he had hooked middle of the day on top water, and it pulled off.
That hurts.
But, I mean, that was the key. Like, the fish seemed to be pushing shallower and shallower, and that was kind of the key to success based on, talking to Richard and Al. I mean, that was kind of how things ended up happening. Was the fish ended up being much closer to the surface than you would think when you're mid-December. But I mean,
it was pretty warm Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, and
we just reacted to the water temperature.
Yeah,
right.
And Patrick, I don't remember if I said this to you or not, but when I was scouting a little, I didn't do a ton of scouting last week. The places that I caught some fish last week, really, and where I was seeing some bait activity and stuff like that, I said to myself, and I know I said to Bobcat, man, it really feels like spring right now. And he went behind me scouting and fished a couple of other areas and caught some fish in some springtime places. And it made a lot of sense because, like what you were talking about, Patrick, the water temperature was on the rise. It was coming on up. There's bait all over the place. And
everywhere.
Just in places you wouldn't think that you would see in December. You got to pay attention to the signs, what the signs are telling you. You know what I mean? If you see some mullet somewhere, there's usually going to be some fish around them. So I think that's pretty key right now. And I don't know about you too, Patrick, but man, I had zero confidence I was going to get a bite anywhere unless I was seeing mullet right now. Everywhere I've been fishing and having success, I'm seeing some mullet around. So I think that's something that they're keying in on. And those mullets should kind of be getting out of here before too long.
That was going to be my next question, isn't it? I mean, they should be getting close to that.
I would think so. Hopefully this good shot of cold we're about to get this week looks like it's going down to like 34 tonight and 36 tomorrow night, 39 Friday night. So it should
drop that water temp down a good bit.
I think it's going to have to get down into the mid to lower 50s and sustain a little bit to push them out of here. But I think that's what's about to happen.
It may. I'll tell you what we're going to see a move on is what pogies are left in the system. That should push those guys out.
Yeah, there
still are plenty of pogies around, especially on the eastern shore. And I tell you, one of the things that I'm finding a lot of the trout feeding on, besides finger mullet, that they're feeding on the eastern shore has been shad, the threadfin shad. And if you see some pelicans diving, and even the water turkeys, the cormorants, whatever you want to call them, those guys are really feeding heavy on those threadfin shad. So if you see that action kind of going on in an area that would be conducive for some speckled trout fishing, certainly I wouldn't be afraid to go right up in the middle of that or close to that and start fishing, because that's a lot of what I'm finding in the speckled trout that we're keeping, that I'm filleting out. I mean, that's a lot of what the gut contents have been over there, has actually been those threadfin shad.
Really not going to be a whole lot of wind this weekend. I was just looking. I mean, it's been blowing for a couple of days here pretty good. I mean, if it slacks off on Saturday, comes out of the west, really is not a whole lot of wind at all Friday, Saturday, or Sunday.
That'll be nice. They really missed it yesterday because it was supposed to be kind of an easterly wind, and I had my guys meet me on the east side of the bay, and we had kind of a north to northwest wind that blew about twice as hard as it was expected. So, but anyway, I mean, to kind of give you all the rundown of what I've been up to has been when I'm trout fishing, I'm slinging slicks at them. The cool bean slick. If I feel like they're biting and we're not getting hit, and for some reason the only thing I'm doing is I'll change over to like the goblin slick lure, and that has helped a few times, but for the most part I can hand guys the cool bean slick and just go ahead and knock themselves out. And then And then if we either are very successful on trout fishing and we're moving on to something else, then I have been buying some shrimp and trying to keep some shrimp on the boat so we can go and fish some of the reefs around the eastern shore and the western shore for sheephead. And that's been a pretty good game for us. And then, man, I'll tell you what, I did some dock fishing the other day for redfish from about Fairhope Pier down to Mullet Point. Man, that water has, despite the west wind, that water has stayed really, really clear, super salty. And, I mean, there's at times when you can sight cast these redfish around the dock. So it's pretty cool opportunities around there. You know, you may not go down there and have you a 30 fish day, but there was one stretch of piers where I think the guys had maybe a dozen or more redfish in that, say, 15 to 19 inch range. So there's a lot of cool opportunities out there right now. Other than that, went over to the causeway today and we caught fish south of the causeway, north of the causeway. Didn't really just sit in one area or make one area just where we caught a whole bunch of fish. Once we started putting some jigs on the bottom, we switched over to the Swamp Thing, little slick on a 1/4 ounce jig head, and we ended up doing a lot of damage with that today. So
that Swamp Thing's a great color.
I don't know. It's amazing how good that color is. And I've even had guys throw the Cool Beans, little slick, and the Swamp Thing, and the Swamp Thing seems to outproduce most every day. So if anybody's listening and needs to buy their angler a Christmas gift or some stocking stuffers, that would be those would be two easy purchase lures that are going to work for somebody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you hear how Patrick spoke up when he said that, so that his wife is in the next room heard that. Hey, honey.
Just saying. Pureflats.com.
Oh, man, that's funny.
That's a great report.
That's been it, man. I mean, there's a lot of fish to be caught, and just kind of keep your head down and just keep grinding away. But I will say this, like today, for instance, when we were jig fishing, this actually came up in conversation with Taylor Moreau. He helps me out with some charters and stuff, and he and I were talking, and he was saying about how another bog competitor come in and fished an area real quick and then took off. And he was like, "What do you think about that?" I said, "Well, man, I really think if you can get 15 casts in an area, especially like in the Mobile River or Theodore Canal or somewhere like that, where you've kind of got kind of a captive audience per se.
Congregated areas.
Right.
Yeah.
So really, if you're confident in a lure, so like I'm super confident in a slick lure Swamp Thing on a jig, and I have 3 anglers on the boat, or just me and a buddy, however you want to draw it out. I mean, making 5 casts a piece, 10 casts a piece in a general area, if nobody gets bit, I feel pretty confident in moving on. Now, certainly the wind and stuff like that can play a factor and say, all right, well, we got to fish a little bit slower and kind of pick each area apart that we can fish. But I don't know. That was the thought there is that if you do have the flexibility to be able to move around a lot, I wouldn't sit in any one spot more than about 5 or 6, maybe 10 casts. And if you're not getting hit, go ahead and move on. Find somewhere
Patrick, I've seen you do that. I've seen Patrick in I think in your tournament in the Classic a couple times. He'll come in planed off to a spot, and he'll be up on the bow making a cast before the boat comes off plane, throwing the trolling motor in, freaking hammer out about 12 casts. He'll jump right back up.
Never get off a plane.
Oh, yeah. Then runs into another spot, does the same damn thing. He looks like a daggum pinball freaking bouncing off the banks and Dog River. Bang, 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 bang.
Got to find them.
Oh, yeah.
Got to find them.
Always bird dogging. That's all
right.
I can do.
Yeah. I like it. Well, cool, man. That's a
But,
great report. Well, give us a forecast too, Patrick. What you expect it to do with this little bit of cool off we're about to have here? You think that's going to pull some fish out of this shallower pattern that we might be in and go to a little bit more of a deeper deal?
Yeah.
And
I think that's I think that's a good point, Richard. So we have a combination of things that are actually going to happen like really close together. We have a rise in the river. It's not a terrible rise, but we do have another rise in the river. So we're going to see another flush of fresh water coming, which typically pushes the fish down towards the bottom. And then we've got back-to-back days of
30-degree nights,
30-something degree nights. And like today, we saw water temperatures like 59 to no more than 61 degrees. So I would assume that these temperatures are going to drop down. We'll probably see some like 54, 55 degrees on the surface in the mornings, and they'll bounce back. But I would certainly anticipate a lot of these fish that have been in that, say, 3 to 6 footer range, that they're going to drop off into some deeper areas. So if you have been on fish in the flats, then you may want to start looking into some deeper areas in the upcoming weekend. But then also just kind of keep an eye on these river stages we are going to see a rise in Coffeyville, which then we'll see a little bit of a rise at Berry Steam Plant. And if those areas with those rises, I tend to gravitate towards deeper and deeper water. I mean, even today, and we have pretty good water quality. We were already catching fish. We caught fish today, and I think 26 feet of water. So there's already fish in those areas. Mm-hmm. So if you add a little fresh water and some more colder temps on top of it, you're going to see some more of those fish in that 20 to 26, 28 feet of water. So yeah, that's kind of my forecast on it. But I think a lot of that stuff that was happening in the bay over the last couple of weeks, and where we were catching fish in, say, 4 to 6 feet of water and 4 to 8 feet of water, I think a lot of that's going to go away until we start seeing some of that water bounce back up and get back up into the 60s.
Sweet. That's a great forecast and a great report, Patrick.
For sure. Got a pretty cool Hey Cap question this week.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I was.
What you got?
I'm interested
for
to
both
see
you guys.
What Patrick's going to say about this one.
Yep. This week's Hey Cap was brought to us by Foster Contracting. Do you need a new roof? Do you have wind or hail damage? You may qualify for a free roof. Foster Contracting will inspect your roof and provide you with an estimate stress-free, and they will also handle your insurance claim. Your roof is your first line of defense this storm season, so sit back, relax, and enjoy your day. Foster Contracting has you covered. Check them out on the web at www.fortifiedroofingpros.com or give them a shout at 251-447-2978. All right, this week's Hey Cap, and I hope that I don't ruin this name. You guys know him, so maybe you can help me out. Vanya Kai says, Hey Cap, I've never targeted gator trout, but I know from social media I've seen some big trout caught in the winter around this area. What are some tips for targeting these trophy trout along the Gulf Coast? What you think? Both you guys got the gator bug.
Man, I tell you, one of the tips that just going off of lure selection would be to up your lure size. So if you're typically throwing a small little jig trying to get the maximum bites, going up in your lure size could help. One of the things, like throwing the regular, the slick, that's always a big help. That's one thing as far as targeting. But the other is man, I don't know that I have a profound answer as to where or how I'm going to target those fish. I really just try to find what I like to try to find is 2 to 3 pound fish, like where I pull up to an area and I start catching 3 pound trout or 2.5 pound trout. I feel really confident in weeding through those to end up catching something that's in that gator class of, say,
right. Try and change your
24,
tactics.
25, 26-inch fish.
Mm-hmm.
And that
change it just a little bit based on what's happening in front of you, basically.
That's been my success story, is like this time of the year is finding good quality fish and just trying to catch as many of them as I can, and we end up pulling some good fish out of it. I know that's not exactly like how am I going to go target this trophy trout, but I mean it's certainly helped with me in the past as far as when I start finding that better grade of fish, because it feels like there's a grade of fish that are going to be, say, anywhere from 10 inches to
16,
even 16 to 18 inches.
Yeah.
That are all going to somewhat be together. And then you're going to have a little bit of that kind of like that hybrid range where you're going to have some 16s to 19s. But when you start catching those 20s and 21s, I feel like those fish,
that's big trout water.
There's a big girl in there somewhere.
Those fish are near really big fish.
So would you do anything different as far as trying to change the depth of your lure, or working it slower or faster, or on the outsides of the school, or anything like that? You know what I'm trying to say?
Me personally, I want to go in full on just hammer down mode and catch as many of them as I can while they're biting. And I think there's going to be a gator to bite while I'm in there. That's my thought. And I've had it happen to me many, many times where I'm catching 20s, 21s, 22s, and then all of a sudden you catch 26. And that's just where, this time of the year, it can be difficult for us in Alabama to say that, all right, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do something that's totally unique and I'm only going to catch 26-inch trout. If that guy is out there, we need him to come onto the podcast and share a little bit of his details. But I have yet to find that I'm going to go out here and make 80 casts or 1,000 casts or whatever in a day, and I'm going to be able to catch 3 of them over 6 pounds. Not in Alabama waters.
Right.
And it's not
a little bit different fishery here.
Doable. It's not to say it's not doable, but for me personally, I want to fish until I catch some good, solid 20-plus inch fish and then try to catch them and capitalize in that area. Because what I feel like when I threw a jig in there or a lure or whatever I threw into that zone that enticed a 21-inch trout to bite, I feel like there's trout that are 25, 26, 27 inches in that same area, and they're going to eat the exact same lure. So it's going to be a numbers game at that point.
What you think, Cap?
Yeah, I like what Patric's saying there, and that's almost exactly how I would think about it too. I'm trying to get myself in what I would call big fish water. You know what I'm saying? I have found, though, a lot of times, like what Patric's kind of talking about, trying to get away from the school-sized fish, most of the time you're going to find like-sized fish in a school. But I feel like sometimes they cross over each other. You know, you have 2 different schools in one little area. And, you know, like when I was doing a little bit of practicing for the Battle of the Grubs, I was catching some giant fish right alongside some 12-inch fish, too, in the same area. They were either 12 inches or they were 24 or 25 inches long, you know. So that's something. And the other thing, too, I like to think about, just to back up a little bit on the big fish thing, keeping a log and keeping a good memory bank of where you have had success in the past. These fish are very, very, very
patternable.
Yeah, habitual about where they show up. I wouldn't say I catch big fish right in the same spot every year, but at some point I'm going to catch a big fish in the same spot during the winter.
If you're following the patterns and you pattern, you know, they're going to be here at this, you're typically here at this time, at this time.
In the, so you need to keep a log or keep a good memory bank of where you've had success in the past, because this isn't gonna be one of those things to catch a 26-incher. You know, you're not just gonna go set out your first year and go catch a 26-incher. You might get lucky and catch one.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you got to do something with that information. You can't be so wound up about catching the fish, about catching fish if you want to be a big trout fisherman. You know, you have to. It takes a lot of time. And a lot of fishing. You got to keep a bait in the water a lot. And the other thing too is when you find an area where there's some big fish, you need to go find other areas that are exactly like that area somewhere else. You know, why are these fish here in this area? You need to ask yourself that question. and then go find other areas that are similar
templates.
You know, have the same bottom, have the same depth, bottom contour, bottom type, whether it's hard bottom, shell, mud. Is it a point? Is there water movement there? Because kind of part of my thought process with these trout in the wintertime, especially in these tidal rivers, is we're going to have a period like we're going to get tonight and the next couple of nights where it's going to pull all these fish out of the shallower water and it's going to bunch them up. And then right after that, they're going to want to warm up so that their metabolisms will come up and they can start feeding again. They're going to come up in that shallower water again, you know. So you kind of got to be thinking like that. You have to change your thought process a little bit. They're going to go somewhere to get warm, and then they're also they're going to go somewhere to get warm from the cold, and then they're going to go somewhere to warm up from the cold.
Sure, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So,
that's good stuff. That's a great question,
Patric.
Vanya.
I kind of talked over you there for a second. You were going to say something. That's a good point.
I totally concur with what you're saying. That's the same trends that I see. Is that they'll pull out of the shallow, find somewhere nice and more stable, and then all of a sudden,
that's a good word for it.
You get the bluebird sky. You get some nice sun heating up the flats, and the mullet push back up there, and so will those big trout.
For sure.
And also another tip for somebody that's wanting to go trophy trout, big trout fishing is, I mean, you better have your big boy pants on and not look for trying to catch 100 trout.
Right.
It's not going to be 100 trout day.
Right.
No, you can go big trout hunting, man, and get 2 bites, and that's a good day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that's the big thing is how bad do you want to catch a big trout? And a lot of times it could be it really could be a 6 bite, 2 fish day.
That's a big mistake I see. Like, you know, we're like in tournament, what I call tournament season now with Battle of the Grubs and of course Patric's tournament and whatnot. And you see some of these guys that fish these tournaments, man, they just can't get past just wanting to catch fish.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's a whole different mindset.
They'll just going to go burn up 50 or 60 fish in a day, hoping to catch that one good one or 3 good ones or 5 good ones, whatever the creel is. And you're not going to do it that way. You've got to completely change that mindset. You got to get out of that whole catching phase. You know what I mean? I'm not worried about catching a pile of fish.
Right.
On those days, I'm worried about getting about 6 or 7 bites all day long. You know what I mean? And then making sure you connect with
sticking the good bites you do get.
Yeah. You gotta make sure you connect. You know, we want to take a good look at your gear and stuff too, man. Make sure your line's good.
But for the task.
Yeah. And I as tough a day as we had on Saturday, I set the hook on a fish and my braid broke in the middle of the line, you know, and I'm just sitting there thinking, golly, I'm just like, I'm the biggest jelly bean out here. Man. And I can see Cap Bobby look at me like,
right. What do you even say to that?
Sorry, dude.
Right.
I don't know what to do. I mean, oh man. And then about 5 minutes later, one of my handles on my reel fell off into the water. You know, I'm like, God dog, man.
Garbone day. That's right.
Yeah.
I like it. We need to end with that.
That's a great, for sure. Vanya, that's a great question. Make sure you email us your shipping address to alabama@bestfishingreport.com. Vanya's going to get a prize pack from the Slick Lure. It's slick season. You guys make sure and you're following the Best Fishing Report on Facebook. That's where we post those Hey Cat posts, or you can always just send them to alabama@bestfishingreport.com. Captain Patric, we appreciate you being on as always, man. If folks want to get up with you and book a trip, I'm not sure what your bookings are look like, but I look forward to fishing with you on Friday for sure.
Ooh, man, I might jump in on that trip. I'm off on Friday, boys.
All right, come on, more the merrier.
No, actually, it's maxed out. I mean, we don't have any more room for
That's
Richard.
Right.
Hey, Patric, I'll bring you a life jacket so when you fall in the water,
there we go.
Nice.
Got him.
Yep.
What's the best way to get in touch with you, Cap?
I will humbly accept your
banter.
PFD.
That's right.
So yeah, actually, I think I just filled out the rest of my calendar for this month, but I've got guys that are booking We're booking sheephead trips in the spring. We're already booking stuff in April and May around the full moons, the new moons and stuff. So if you want to be around some of those big moon times, those dates are already starting to leave. So, but anyway, you can give me a call, 251-747-1554. You can shoot me a text on that number as well. You can go to my website at uglyfishing.com. And you can click the book now button, and you'll be able to see what my calendar looks like. And if you see a date that fits you, and you like the tides, you like the moons, go ahead and book it. We'll go ahead and lock it in place.
Nice. We appreciate the report as always, man. And we look forward to talking with you next time. Like I said, I look forward to fishing with you on Friday.
All right, bro. Look forward to it.
Yes, sir. See you soon. All right, Captain Richard. That's a great segment as always from old Positive Pat.
Positive Pat, man. I love me some Patric, dude.
Me too.
He's as good as they come, man. For as far as fishermen and
and in life as well.
Character of person, man. Patric is very high in the pecking order in my mind. Very good dude, man.
Me as well. Well, man, let's wrap this thing up.
Where are we going next?
Yep, let's head on down and get the onshore report from Captain Dusty Hayes. What you say, Cap?
What's up, guys? How are y'all?
We are good, man. I'm just trying to give the fishing report and stay out of the wind. It's been a little windy and cloudy over here today.
Oh yeah, same over here. It's cooling off for sure.
Yeah,
but
can be cold for the next couple of days too. But what you been up to?
We've been doing some fishing for sure. The beach bite's been great. This cold front will slow it down just a tad, but early December, mid-December is game time as far as I'm concerned. A lot of good pompano being caught right now, everywhere from Orange Beach, Gulf Shores, all the way to Destin, Panama City. I know that's kind of out of our range of what we talk about, but that whole shift of everything to the east, is they're definitely catching good fish. I've seen some good quality fish from a lot of different people, including myself. But the size is there. It seems like further east in Orange Beach and even Perdido Key is going to be where you're going to get your numbers if you want pompano, especially of numbers of keeper fish. But there's guys catching pompano underneath the Pass Bridge right now on the jetties, the inshore reefs and flats. And that's a typical wintertime thing. A lot of people think pompano, they think just surf fishing, but inshore fishing this time of year with live shrimp and or artificial lures such as jigs and soft plastics while you're trout fishing, you will catch them, and then certain deep water spots that have structure, such as the inshore reefs, the flats, the bridge, jetties, stuff like that. And redfish have been thick. I saw, there was actually a school in the pass yesterday. There wasn't nobody fishing them either. There was a couple boats sitting on the jetties while there was a school on top inside the pass. But there's plenty of birds and baits still going up and down the beach. And I'm sure I haven't seen anybody found them schooling, but I haven't seen a lot of boats out either. I'm sure if you spent the time out there and ran the beaches, especially towards the west, you'll find those redfish on top, somewhere. And if anything, trolling will definitely produce some fish. But along with the pompano and the surf, the whiting bite has been good. The numbers this year, it doesn't seem to anybody's getting, like 100 fish a day, which sounds crazy, but it's more than doable at certain times of the year. But I have seen some guys catching, 25, 30, 40 whiting, decent size ones. The last couple of times I've been out, we've had a consistent bite of, a dozen or so, maybe 2 dozen whiting at most. But majority of them have been better size, like 12, 13, 14, 15-inch fish. And you have a huge potential of a 16, 17, 18-inch whiting this time of year, which is an absolute monster. But most of your bigger ones, it seems like, come in, November, December, as far as being consistent with a 16, 17-inch plus whiting. And, on top of that, you have redfish. I've seen a lot of guys catching redfish right now. Fort Morgan, those guys are fishing at night. There's a lot of guys fishing in Perdido Pass at night, catching bull reds. I'm sure they're soaking cut baits such as mullet and blue crabs as well. And there's plenty of black drum up and down the beach. A couple days ago, we were out there and we walked out. As soon as I put the first 4 rods out, we had 2 black drum hooked up within maybe 10 minutes. And then the guy next to me had one, and then the guy down from him had one, all within 30 minutes. 4 fish hooked up within a half hour. So there's some good numbers of black drum, and they're bigger ones too, running the beach. as it gets cooler and cooler and cooler, you'll notice that the shrimp and the fish bites may not be as productive. This is the time of year you start looking into other options as far as like maybe changing scent of fish bites like clam and stuff like that, and also catching ghost shrimp, which is a huge, huge thing as it gets colder. Those days where, you know, you're fishing the surf and you're only getting a couple bites, you know, the fish are there. They're just slow going. They may not be in the mood to eat. Sometimes these high pressure systems we get in the wintertime, they're not very active in feeding. Finding ghost shrimp, catching them and using them is a huge, huge, huge difference maker when it comes to surf fishing. I've seen it multiple times myself, and it took me a long time to really have the want to go put my waders on and catch ghost shrimp, but it pays off if you spend a couple hours in the water catching ghost shrimp before you go fishing. That a few hours on the beach is a lot more fun, you know, when you're actually getting bit. And it's crazy how much of a difference it makes. You can turn a 1 or 2 bite day into a 20 or 30 bite day just by having some ghost shrimp.
It seems too like the wintertime, I would assume fishing bait like you guys like to do. I kind of switch gears more towards artificial this time of year, just with our area over here, mostly chasing speckled trout and redfish. But seems like you get a lot of trash out of here too in the wintertime. So you get a much cleaner bite.
That's true.
So is that kind of what you'll see down there too? You know, like you go and spend the time to catch a couple dozen ghost shrimp. That's you're not having to worry about pinfish and catfish and stuff like that pick you off, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. As that water gets cooler, you know, the food source kind of dwindles, and, you know, your ladyfish are out of town, and you have the occasional speckled crab and pinfish and croaker, you know, nibble at your bait. But there's days where you'll take anything you can get once it gets really cold. And like you said, as far as wintertime, as far as inshore wise, I mean, I'm going to throw a lure myself. Unless I'm sheepshead fishing specifically, I'm throwing either a twitch bait, jerk bait, or a paddle tail of some sort for trout and redfish and all that. To me, it's way more productive than fishing a live shrimp or something of that sort, because, you know, it's just like the trout and the redfish, everything's moving up the back of those creeks, getting that warmer water, and that's where all those croakers and pinfish are. So floating a shrimp to those bends in the creeks is, you know, seems like to be a small mangrove snapper and a small croaker, you know, magnet. So throwing an artificial is a good way to kind of weed through them. But as far as the surf goes, yeah, you can, if you put a ghost shrimp out, and there's times like, especially you get into January, February, that it'll be slow going even with ghost shrimp. But when you do get a bite, it's going to be a quality bite. And that's my favorite part about winter is, you know, I don't mind going out there and only getting a couple bites in an hour. I'll bring a chair, bring some coffee, bring some beer, whatever you got to do to keep yourself comfortable. But, you know,
little grandpa's cough medicine, warm you up a little bit.
Yeah, right. That's probably what I'll be doing tomorrow.
That's right.
Dustin, what are you doing or have you been fishing any like what I call the backwaters over there for some speckled trout and stuff of that nature? That I'm assuming that's kind of where the trout move or into the
transition upward,
transition into the.
Most of our trout go up in, you know, Soldiers Creek and Palmetto, the top of Wolf Bay. You know, you can go further up into Perdido River, and, you know, you can go on and on about which fish go where. But those fish are up there. The trout bite in all the rivers, you know, even on the eastern shore, which is, you know, I guess kind of in a way our part of town. As far as the southern side, like Bon Secour and all that stuff. Plenty of trout in there for sure. And then also, you know, all the Wolf Bay creeks are going to have trout, no doubt, and then redfish too. And you'll have a good bit of largemouth mixed in there with them, and panfish. So all the creek fishing I've done, you know, mostly throwing artificials like paddle tails and jerk baits have been very productive for, you know, a variety of bass, redfish, and trout. But it's been great further in. The sheepshead bite did slow down the past couple of days. I know, you know, the guys fishing around the pass caught a good number of them, but as far as like in the intercoastal around Gulf Shores especially, I know the past few days it was like dead. I mean, zero sheepshead. And I know that sounds hard to believe, but, you know, the week before, I mean, you almost couldn't throw a shrimp out there without getting bit. Those fish, I don't know if they just got fished heavily or if they just kind of moved on, maybe went to a different part of the bay or moved out, whatever they did. But I fished Sunday in there. We caught redfish, we caught trout, we caught black drum. We caught croakers, mangrove snapper, anything but a sheep's head. And, you know, in the week before, they were very plentiful in there. So I don't know where they went, but there's definitely some good trout up in all the creeks right now. And guys fishing the bridge over here still catching some decent numbers of sheep's head and some nice redfish. And there's the guys fishing the beach side of the pass are catching them, you know, at night. But the reefs are a huge player this time of year, in my opinion. You know, Orange Beach, I know Mobile Bay has a few as well, but Orange Beach, Perdido Key area, we have four reefs, you know, locally, and a couple of them are at the mouth of rivers. A few of them are adjacent to grass flats, and it's deeper water, usually, you know, anywhere from 8 to some of them are 17, 18 feet. They'll have structure on them. And those fish will stage. It's deep enough to where they can get down, hunker down behind that structure, especially if you'll get warming trends, you know, like it's real cold and then it gets warm for, you know, a week or so. Those fish will kind of move out, and it seems like those reefs are hot. But I've, you know, caught fish on there all winter on most of those reefs, and artificials are really the way to go, in my opinion. You can catch them on shrimp and stuff, and that opens the door to a sheep's head or, you know, maybe a pompano. But as far as throwing, you know, twitch baits and paddle tails and stuff, that seems to be the number one key on those inshore reefs is using, you know, artificial for sure.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that's a heck of a report, man. We always like to hear from you. We got to get that tip. This week's onshore tip is brought to us by MDH Foundation. If your home is experiencing foundation problems, MDH Foundation Repair has the best solutions to fix it right and fix it now. The problems you are seeing are only going to get worse. So don't deal with inefficient, unqualified, and pushy salesmen trying to sell you overpriced foundation repair products. The professionals at MDH Foundation will ensure you have a remarkable experience from the first meeting to the finished product. MDH Foundation Repair is redefining the construction industry and protect your most important asset, your home. Check them out at mdhfoundationrepair.com. Just think for a tip this week, Captain Dustin.
Yeah, so I was kind of touch back up on, you know, we talked about artificials a little bit during the report, and this time of year I think it's critical, and probably all year, but it's critical for me on coloring, and I seem to be a little more picky in the winter months on what color plastics or even twitch baits I'm throwing, depending on where I'm fishing and the water clarity. A few little tips, you know, that, and, you know, y'all might have different input on it as well. Everybody's got their own thing. The main thing for me is personal preference. You know, if you're just getting into throwing lures, especially plastics, for, you know, trout, redfish in the wintertime, buy a few different brands, buy a few different colors, you know, different styles. You know, like I love paddle tails in the wintertime, and I've noticed personally, like I like one that's, you know, shorter and usually with a broader body to it versus something longer and slimmer, especially like rib bodies, versus a slick body. And that's just me. Like personal preference is the Saltwater Assassin Little Boss. They're 3.5 inches. Huge variety of colors from natural to browns to, you know, pinks to chartreuses. And, you know, you got a selection there to choose from. But that being said, a lot of people like, you know, slick lures and matrix shad and all this stuff. You know, get a variety of colors and figure out what works best for you, especially like on the reefs or up in the creeks. You'll have times where we get some rain and that water gets a little muddy, and chartreuse, you know, some people kind of stay away from it because they think it looks a little too bright, but chartreuse in the wintertime for trout, like the matrix shad lemonhead, Saltwater Assassin has a space guppy, Z-Man has a space guppy, this chartreuse glitter is a, you know, incredible bait that is just, it just glows in that darker water, and trout just seem to love it in dirty water. A few weeks ago, I was catching a bunch of fish, and the same thing last winter with a new color that Saltwater Assassin came out. It's called Boudreaux. It's a purple and gold fleck. And see, I kind of thought it looked like a croaker, but we were catching some bluefish and pompano that were spitting up mullet that were descaled and had the bright purple backs. And I thought, you know, Patric had the same thing with the slick lure, that cool beans color, which is, you know, cool. So that's something that, you know, I noticed. And the main thing as far as narrowing it down, you know, you can always keep it natural, you know, stuff like grays and pearls and iridescent backs, stuff like that. But, you know, even just some venturing off, and sometimes these little bright colors, the subtle glitter colors and all that stuff might be the ticket, and throwing stuff that's different than what everybody else is throwing. You know, a lot of times everybody's throwing the same color lure, and those fish see that stuff all the time. You throw something a little different through there, that might be the ticket that day to catch fish. So having a variety on you, different styles, different sizes, anywhere from 2.5 inches up to, I would say 4-inch paddle tails. This time of year is a, awesome confidence bait for me as far as trout fishing for sure. But
yep, I always when it comes to trout fishing, number one, like you're talking about bait size, I don't think you can throw a big enough lure at a speckled trout, to be honest with you. They're one of those fish that has no idea how big they are in relation to something else, which is kind of crazy because, you're throwing like a 4-inch slick lure out there and, you
catch a 3.5-inch speck.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you'll catch like 12-inch fish on a bait that's 4 inches long, which kind of blows my mind sometimes. They
don't care.
The other thing too, kind of hitting on the color thing, I always kind of try to match my conditions to my color, so if I've got a kind of a more cloudy day, darker water conditions, something like that, I'm going to throw a darker color lure to kind of almost match what the conditions are so that it looks more natural. I want my bait almost to blend into the water more so than poke out like a sore thumb. And then on the flip side of that, big bright sky, clear water, stuff like that, I'm going to go with more brighter colors, like chartreuses or pinks or like the cool beans color, something that's going to kind of almost blend in a little bit better. It's just going to make it look more natural. The fish are going to find your bait. You're twitching it along, working it. They can feel that there's something in the area, and they'll hone in and find it. But, getting some of those reaction bites sometimes I think is key
for sure
with color.
Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And my main thing is just confidence. I know it sounds crazy, but the more you fish lures and you catch fish on certain colors, like everybody, you take it back to how you learn how to fish, throwing black trickworms in a pond. You can take a black trickworm to any piece of freshwater in the country and catch a largemouth on it. And it's kind of the same thing with me with just certain colors in the wintertime. I have one in particular that I can, I'll throw a few different things and it's just nothing. I'll switch over and I'll start catching fish, and it may not necessarily be that color. It's just, I feel like if you have confidence in something, you fish it a lot better. You're in the right mindset to catch those fish with what you have. And so, experimenting and trying different stuff, and everybody has, different preference. And, but yeah, no, that's for me, that's a huge thing in the wintertime and all year, but especially seems this time of year, it makes a little bigger difference.
Yep, I agree.
Definitely agree.
I agree 100%. I usually, when I'm headed out in the wintertime, I've usually got several different colors tied on different rods just so I can set one rod down, pick another one up with a different color, and boom, I'm banging out some more casts with a different color.
Yep. Agreed.
Yep, absolutely. It seems like in the summertime you can throw anything at them, but yeah, this time of year I like to kind of narrow it down and always trying new stuff, new brands, new plastics, new hard baits, and you'll find something that may not be a popular lure that everybody's ranting and raving about, but that may be the ticket to making your day something that everybody else isn't throwing.
For sure. That's a great report, Captain Dustin. If folks want to get up with you and book a trip, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
You can find me at Sam's in Orange Beach, or you can call me or text me at 678-897-0167.
Appreciate the report as always, man, and we'll talk to you soon. Keep whacking them.
All right, guys. Thanks.
See you, bud.
Always good to hear from old Captain Dustin down there.
And he's
usually honed in on them, man.
Oh yeah, him
and Veche over there.
They're usually dialed into something
for sure. Fun show, man. It was good. It was a good show this week. A lot of good information.
Yep, the Hilton's report was good as always.
Always learn something from him.
Yep, golly, he's just a wealth of knowledge about
everything.
Using that satellite imagery to put something together, shooting radar at the Earth.
It's wild, man. It's wild. Who would have thunk it?
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather's going, "What? You're doing what?"
Huh?
All right, man. We got to do What Did You Learn? This week's What Did You Learn is brought to us by SunSouth. If you're even thinking about a new tractor or outdoor equipment, don't miss the year-end sales event at SunSouth. You can save thousands on a new John Deere with 0% financing and payments under $250 a month on select models, like the John Deere 1025R compact utility tractor and loader, or for larger jobs, drive off in a John Deere 3025E with loader from SunSouth for only $234 a month with 0% financing. Even John Deere Gators are on sale, including the 590M with with 0% financing. Visit SunSouth for quality John Deere equipment you've been dreaming of, or visit sunsouth.com. Offer expires December 31st, 2020. Some restrictions may apply. You guys go see your dealer for details.
Sounds like a stocking stuffer.
Doesn't it? Be a little tough to fit in there, but tell you what, I finally got up to get back up to the camp last weekend and got on that one we bought from SunSouth.
Mm-hmm.
It's an incredible machine.
Heck yeah.
Just seeing where tractors have come in the last 10 or 15 years are nuts. I mean, Bluetooth and AC and windshield wipers, and it's a fine rig.
Wow.
Nicer than my truck. What'd you learn today, Cap?
Man, just kind of, well, of course, the Hilton's report was pretty incredible, like what we were kind of just touching on there.
I really always learn whenever he starts talking.
I really like the altimetry stuff, and then, of course, being able to look at the temperature breaks and stuff to find the rips.
Yep.
I
mean, how valuable is that?
It's super valuable, I mean, because you're cutting out a lot of guesswork out of it.
Majority of it, I would think.
Yeah, and for a fairly small price, too,
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
For a yearly subscription is less than $200.
Absolutely worth checking out. I don't know exactly off the top of my head.
I'm not sure either, but it's not terribly expensive to not burn a ton of fuel, having to cover the entire Gulf of Mexico to find out where.
There's no telling how much money it saves you in fuel alone.
That's right. And then you can kind of find where the better water quality is going to be.
Yeah, which is a huge deal.
And then we were talking about altimetry. Man, altimetry just blows my mind.
It's wild.
Even when it's rough, they can figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And the stuff shoots through the clouds. Unbelievable.
Technology's nuts.
Yep. From the inshore side, man, it really sounds like, talking to Dusty, talking about the some of the beach fishing he's doing. Of course, Captain Patrick and I, and in our experiences, all fish really seem to be on the mullet right now.
Yep.
They always talk about, like, down in Florida, the big mullet run that happens in the fall. We don't really have a mullet run per se like they do, but the fish are definitely on the mullet right now, which I think that's about to start to change. Kind of what Patrick and I were talking about in the inshore report, about how there's still a bunch of mullet around and pogies and stuff like that. And hopefully this cool weather is going to get them out of here. And the reason we want them out of here so that the fish are going to react to our plastic better. So
they'll bite our mullet imitation.
Yeah, that's right. They don't have, when they see something swim by them in the wintertime and there's not a freaking wad of bait in one of these systems, they see your lure, they've got to eat it to survive. You know what I mean? Because it starts to get tough. They've got to eat to survive through the winter. So that's the reason we kind of talk about that, wanting to get that bait out of here. So that should start to happen soon. But, man, it really sounds like, stem to stern, everybody's liking some purple right now.
That's what I was going to say, too.
The cool beans, or what Dusty was calling the bayou something. What color is he talking about? Boudreaux. Yeah, Boudreaux. I knew it was something.
Yeah. Some Cajun.
Yeah, something. Yeah. But
purple.
That seems to be the trick right now, and kind of what I was talking about a little bit too with water quality. The water's so clear right now that those colors are what's going to shine.
Yep.
Purple you can look at purple two ways. You can kind of look at purple as like a dark color, or they can kind of look at it as like a really light color, depending on what shade of purple you're talking. I don't really say the cool beans is purple. Some people call it purple. It doesn't look purple to me. Maybe I'm colorblind, but
maybe a little.
It looks more blue.
It is
a little bit more blue.
And I like
purple.
those flecks in there too that kind of make it purpley.
Yeah, and then the other color I was talking about that I really like, it's been one of my go-tos, that Bayou Blues. Now, it's more of like a purple-red looking color to me.
I know which one you're talking about.
That I have a lot of success with too. So I just think anything lighter shade right now is really going to be your ticket
for sure.
But man, December's always a great period. I always catch. I don't know. It's one of those things. Always catch some giant trout. Last week I caught a 25 and a 26-inch fish. Looking around for our tournament, and then Captain Bobby stuck one that was probably 26, 27 inches in our tournament and wrapped up that win for us. So there's definitely some big fish to be caught. Talked to several other people who are scouting and doing the same thing, caught some giant fish. Patrick brought up this guy Taylor Morrow that he talks with over there. That I've started to kind of get to know. He said he caught lost the biggest fish he's ever caught, like right at the boat during practice. So he was all jacked up. Bog morning telling me about that at the gas station. So
Yeah.
There's some big fish biting right now. It always seems like December. There's always some good ones. I can think back to the memory bank, and I can think of several, 5 to 7 pound trout that I've caught.
Memory makers.
Oh yeah, in December seems to be a great big trout month. Don't ask me why, but I don't ask those questions. I just go catch them. Just go catch them.
Let's get a few for Saturday. Tie us a couple up out there.
Tie you some up. What?
Yeah, that's right. Go tie one of them big trout over to that piling over there. Go catch him on Saturday. Well, man, as always, I appreciate you co-hosting with me. Had a good time.
This is a great show, and Butch, as always, man, I enjoy being here, and I appreciate you having me.
As always, for sure, man. If folks want to get up with you and book a trip, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Man, my website, you can find my info, my email address, my telephone number, and all that is coldbloodedfishing.com. I've got a Facebook page and an Instagram page. You can also reach out to me on those two platforms as well. So I want to say I got maybe I don't even know if I have anything. I don't think I have anything left for December. So starting to book January, and like kind of what Patrick was getting into with this segment.
Booking those springtime moons.
Yeah, I've already been booking some of those.
Good.
And,
it's a good thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. So seems like every year it gets earlier and earlier. Everybody's kind of competing to get those primo dates, for
that's a good thing as well.
April, May, and June around that moon always seems to be really good. You always have a shot at a giant.
Yep.
Around I always like to be wading that time.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep.
I know.
Awesome, dude. Well, that's going to wrap it up this week, folks. You guys please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like us to email you the podcast each week, just text the word fishing to 314-665-1767. Again, just text fishing to 314-665-1767. Subscribe to our email list, and we'll send you the new show each week. We'll see y'all next week. We're going to release a special episode next week, and you guys have a Merry Christmas if we don't talk to y'all.
Merry.
Keep whacking them. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report is brought to you by Dixie Supply and Baker Metalworks are proud to be your metal roofing headquarters for over 40 years. Save time and money by buying from the most reliable manufacturer on the Gulf Coast. Buy it today, pick it up today. With the addition of their new store in Cantonment, Florida, they now have 8 locations to serve you. Dixie Supply and Baker Metalworks, your metal roofing headquarters. And also brought to you by Test Calibration. Test Calibration is your source for sales and service of diesel turbochargers and fuel injection systems since 1976. Contact them at 800-822-0057 or visit them online at testcalibratindieselandturbo.com. Also brought to you by Advanced Transmission in Spanish Fort. Give the professionals a call who have been trusted on the Gulf Coast for over 25 years at 251-626-6061 or check them out online at www.advanced-transmission.com.
This week's Saltwater Fishing Report is brought to you by Angelo Depaola, the Coastal Connection with eXp Realty, your boating and beach property specialist. Check me out on Facebook at Angelo Depaola Realtor, the Coastal Connection, or call me direct at 850-287-3440.
And also brought to you by Daycool Heating and Air. The pros at Daycool have been servicing Mobile and Baldwin counties for over a decade. Contact them at 251-633-5121 or check them out online at www.daycoolair.com. They are license number AL07028. And also brought to you by Fishbites. Fishbites don't stink or leave a stink on hands and anything else. They don't require bait buckets or ice to stay fresh while you fish. Check out the full line of scented saltwater and freshwater baits and tackle at fishbites.com.
This is Captain Richard Rutland, and this report is brought to you by Cold Blooded Fishing. You can find us at www.coldbloodedfishing.com.